Hello everybody and welcome to part 15 of What If Izuku Midoriya Was an MHA. As always, if you are enjoying this series and want to see more, don't forget to hit a like and subscribe. Yes, this episode we will see Albedo and Midoriya finally come to blows. That said, since it's Albedo, please leave a comment telling me your favorite ultimate or an ultimate you would like to see. Personally, I think the idea was underutilized, so I want to see more ideas in the comments. All that said, please enjoy the video. What gave me away? Albedo asked Bakugou just after he had been attacked by him. Albedo was forced to transform to avoid the attack, choosing Ice Wing as the form to take. The way you talk and act is drastically different, but what really gave you away is the nicknames. You didn't respond to Deku and called me Bakugo, Katsuki said, ready for the fight to come. Noted, Albedo said, considering his options. After pondering it for a moment, he vanished into the ground. Albedo manifested himself behind Bakugo, throwing a spike of ice at him. Bakugo already knew all of Deku's tricks, having observed his development. That attack was new, but the fact that he was attacking from behind was predictable. To attack, Albedo had to become tangible, a fact Bakugo used to his advantage. After shooting his attack, Albedo was met by a gigantic explosion. He did not expect Bakugo to counter, so he didn't have time to go intangible again. Albedo intended to subdue Bakugo and bind him until his plans could be fulfilled, but given the resistance he posed, he might have to eliminate him entirely. A flash of light emanated from Albedo and he re-emerged from it as a Vaxasaurian, charging towards Bakugo. Bakugo shot out an explosion, aiming it at Albedo's eyes. The attack created a smokescreen in front of Albedo, blocking his view. At the same time, Bakugo propelled himself into the air. Once he was behind the Vaxasaurian, he grabbed a hold of his arm and unleashed the biggest explosion he could. The Vaxasaurian was pushed forward slightly by the attack, pushing him out of balance and forcing him to fall to the ground. On his way down, he hit a bunch of pipes, destabilizing the environment and causing it to cave in on Albedo. For a moment, Bakugo thought he had defeated his adversary, but a small projector emanated from the rubble along with green goop. The fight had only begun. While the battle raged on, at the entrance of UA High, a cab parked for a moment, with All Might and Midoriya stepping out. All Might pulled out his wallet and paid the man. After receiving payment, the cab left and the student teacher entered the campus. As they walked further into UA grounds, Midoriya started asking All Might questions. They were mostly fan questions, but among them were also some general hero questions. All Might did his best to answer them, but eventually they reached a cross-section. It's good that you're so enthusiastic, young Midoriya. Unfortunately, I have to go back to the main facilities. I still have some paperwork I have to get done. I'll see you another time, All Might said, parting with the boy. Thanks for answering my questions, All Might, Midoriya said, bowing as his teacher left. No problem, All Might said, smiling at the boy as he left. Once he was far enough away, the smile on his face vanished, replaced by worry. He now had to focus his attention on research into the previous users of One for All. Maybe then would he be able to figure out what was happening to his young protege. Midoriya continued on his path, heading towards the dorms. As he walked, he spotted lasers flying in the sky, reminding him a lot of Laser Ray. Then a field of electricity emanated from the area. After that, Izuku spotted an explosion going off. It's far too late for any train to be going on there, Midoriya mumbled to himself, thinking that someone may have infiltrated the campus again or something. He was tired from the day's events, but still wished to help, so he activated the Omnitrix and transformed into Laser Ray, flying over to Ground Gamma. Die! Bakugo shouted, attacking Midoriya with an explosion just as he landed on the battlefield. Wow, what's going on, Kachan? Izuku asked, flying up into the air to evade the blow. Deku? Bakugo asked, confused. With him here, fighting against the imposter would be both easier and more complicated. What's the problem? What's going on? Midoriya asked, landing on the ground and transforming back into his human form. Oh, I got you now! Albedo said in his arachno chimp form as he jumped at Bakugo, webbing him to the ground with his tail. Only after subduing his opponents, Albedo noticed that there was another being in the battlefield. Are you Izuku Midoriya? Albedo asked while Bakugou struggled to free himself from the webs he was in. I am, but what is an arachnochip doing here? Who are you, for that matter? Midoriya asked, confused as to what was happening. You are most certainly a hard creature to find, Izuku Midoriya. As much as your query is concerned, Albedo started, turning back into his human form. I am no arachnochimp. I am Albedo of the Galvan. Why are you me? Midoriya asked. It was strange seeing himself, talking to himself. He was slightly frightened by the reveal, so instinctively he took a step back, stumbling on a pipe and falling to the ground. I am not you. I am a Galvan. I have my own being. I am the creator of the Omnitrix and demand you remove it from your person and return it to me immediately, Albedo said with a serious expression. Instinctively, Midoriya hid the Omnitrix behind his back, putting his hand over it. But I thought a guy named Azmuth built it. Not to mention that it was the only Omnitrix around. Why do you want it if you have your own? Midoriya questioned while getting up. There were a couple inconsistencies in what was being said. Azmuth is a fake, a hoax, an inferior mind who stole credit for my work, Albedo shouted, venting his frustration with the First Thinker. You see, your version is a mere prototype, an incomplete version that has the potential of ripping a hole in reality itself. If left unchecked, or in your hands, that device could become your planet's demise, not to mention the entire universe's. If it's such a problem, why didn't you come for it sooner? Midoriya questioned. I tried, but I encountered countless complications along the way, such as becoming trapped in this form, Albedo said in an annoyed tone. He hated existing in this form and just wanted to return to his original body. How do you remove it then? Midoriya asked. He didn't necessarily want to do it. He was trying to find a way to avoid it, but if it would result in the end of the world, he had to give it back. Hearing the question, a slight grin appeared on Albedo's face. As he kept talking, Bakugou grew tired of waiting and just unleashed an explosion, breaking the webs around his hands. He then forced the remaining webs away. Once he was free enough, he rushed at the Izuku wearing his hero suit, pinning him to the ground. He made sure to grab his left arm so he wouldn't be able to hit the dial. What's wrong with you, Kachan? Why did you attack him? Izuku asked. Can't you tell he's talking out of his ass? Bakugou screamed back. He just wants your watch, the Omni whatever, for his own reasons. What even is that thing? Who the fuck is this guy really? This? Midoriya said, showing Bakugou his watch, the Omnitrix. As for him, as far as I understand, he's a brain Fabian stuck in my body. Really? Such a scrawny thing? Bakugou said while keeping him pinned. Anyway, you aren't getting the watch. If I can't acquire it through peaceful measures, then I suppose I'll force its retrieval, Albedo said. With but a thought, he transformed into a Methanosian. He planted his legs and hands into the ground and stood up quickly, throwing Bakugou off of him. Bakugou flew back, crashing into Midoriya and throwing him to the ground. Albedo then grabbed a couple of seeds from his arms and threw them next to the two boys. Two long plants grew right next to them, capturing both students and suspending them in the air. I hope to have proven to you I'm not scrawny. You seem a lot weaker than I thought you would be, Albedo said while walking towards Midoriya and Bakugou, intent on taking the Omnitrix. While trapped in the plants, Midoriya struggled, managing to free his left hand. With his tongue, he activated the device, slamming it against the giant plant he was trapped in to transform. He turned into a polymorph, melting through his restraints. Seeing him move towards Bakugou, Albedo ignited two flame balls in his hands and threw them at Midoriya. Midoriya maneuvered around them, arriving at where Bakugou was, freeing him from the plant. Next time you can be faster about it, nerd, Bakugou complained as he landed on the ground. What's the plan? We work together until we can either defeat him or call for help, Midoriya said. But it'd have to be with you, Deku, Bakugou complained as he got ready to fight. That won't be possible, I'm afraid. Earlier, I created an electromagnetic pulse, rendering the machinery in the surrounding area, including all the communication devices, useless. I did not want anybody interfering. I have plenty of time before anybody responds, Albedo said, throwing a couple fireballs at the two boys. If only your technology were more advanced, then you'd gain more assistance. As the fireballs came, Bakugo evaded them while Izuku headed towards Albedo. Albedo kept on throwing fireball after fireball at Midoriya, but Izuku just kept dodging every attack. Knowing that if he got close enough, Midoriya would be able to melt his body, Albedo transformed into a cerebral crustacean. As soon as he transformed, he unleashed a brain blast at Midoriya, keeping the projector and goopy body in place. Bakugo tried rushing at Albedo, but he was caught in the electrical discharge, shocking him and keeping him in place as well. Since the amount of energy was now being shared between two targets, Izuku managed to barely hit the Omnitrix, switching into his Sonorusian form. As reverb, he multiplied a couple of times, surrounding Albedo quickly. He unleashed a sonic cage, forcing Albedo to the ground. Albedo assembled his remaining strength and created an electric field around him, which managed to destroy many of the copies. He then switched into his Arachno-Chim form, shot a web line at one of the reverbs and started spinning him around, defeating the other copies. Once the original copy was thrown back, Bakugo used his explosions and approached Albedo. He created a smoke screen and jumped into the air. Albedo saw the trick coming, as it had already been used on him before, so he shot a web line into the air, trapping Bakugo. As Bakugo fell to the ground, Albedo jumped into the air, sticking to one of the pipes. Fools, this environment is quite easy to utilize, especially with a high intelligence such as mine, he said as he started breaking off and throwing pipes at the trapped Bakugo. A flash of light was seen from where the last reverb was standing. He had now turned into a Galilean. Who the hell is that? Bakugo asked, surprised as he had never seen that alien form before. The pipes heading towards Bakugo stopped in midair and shot back at Albedo, forcing him to evade the coming projectiles. Oh, a Galilean? Albedo asked, surprised to see a transformation that wasn't in his catalog. Cool, huh? Unlocked him today, Midoriya explained, although Uraraka hasn't given him a name yet. Albedo tried throwing some webs at Midoriya, but they just shot right back at him as the forces of gravity were against him. Thinking that Midoriya wouldn't be able to use the transformation to its fullest extent, Albedo switched into a Crystal Sapien and shot a couple of energy beams at Izuku. Seeing as they had no mass, Izuku couldn't redirect the beams easily, so he tried jumping out of the way, evading the attacks. He was pretty slow, so a couple of the blasts hit him anyway. You got gravity powers, right? Bakugo asked. Midoriya nodded in confirmation while shooting a bunch of loose piping and other projectiles at Albedo. Having gotten his answer, Bakugo said, "Throw me!" Midoriya obliged with the request and manipulated gravity around him to throw Bakugo at high speeds towards Albedo. As he flew towards the enemy, Bakugo used his explosions to propel himself sideways. Albedo tried to destroy all the piping that were heading his way, but there were too many. Not only were they meant as an attack, but they were also obscuring his vision. In order to stop the attacks without a problem and be able to counterattack, Albedo switched into his Vaxasaurian form. Pulitzer Impact! Bakugo shouted as he approached Albedo. Seeing him coming, Albedo wanted to switch into his Necrophrygian form, but he was too slow. Even with such a resilient body, he was sent flying towards a wall, crashing into it. Albedo had to stabilize the environment by grabbing parts from it, so some pipes fell on him as well, hitting him in the head. Midoriya quickly turned into a Petro Sapien and encased Albedo in diamonds, blocking his movements. He then walked towards him. Once close enough, he entered a sequence into the Omnitrix and Albedo was turned back into a human. What did you do? Albedo asked, anger and surprise in his voice. He didn't expect to be forced back into human form. How is this possible? You said you made the Omnitrix, right? Then you should know about the code to temporarily disable the device, Midoriya said. I've been studying the Omnitrix for months, ever since I got it. I've been running tests, experiments with each form this watch contains. My father's notes helped a lot, actually. Impressive, but you failed to take one thing into account, Albedo said, easily getting out of where he was trapped. You made your prison for a Vaxasaurian. A human can easily escape. But I can just trap you again, Midoriya said, but before he could do anything, his Omnitrix timed out, leaving him in his human form. Why'd you turn back now of all times? Bakugou asked angrily. They almost had Albedo and now he was free to keep on fighting. It's not like I have control over it, Midoriya responded. The advantage is mine, Albedo shouted, jumping at Midoriya and pinning him to the ground. Give me the Omnitrix. Midoriya started struggling, so Albedo started punching him in the face. Bakugou ran at him, uppercutting Albedo with an explosion, sending him flying away. You okay, nerd? Bakugou asked Midoriya as he got up. You fools! You underestimate me! I have a vastly superior intellect. You have no chance of defeating me, Albedo pronounced. He grabbed a couple of pipes from the ground and got ready to fight. You said yourself this isn't your body, Bakugou said as he approached. He hit Albedo in the chin, sending him tumbling back. He then hit him with the knee in the stomach, forcing him further back. Which means you don't even know how to use it properly. Albedo saw a clean shot at Midoriya and rushed at him, swinging his left fist at Midoriya. Midoriya grabbed the hand, spun around, and sent him tumbling towards the ground. He then punched down with his left hand, wanting to disable Albedo, but he blocked. Both left arms came into contact with one another, causing the Omnitrixes to then lock together. Midoriya tried pulling away, trying to free himself from Albedo's grasp. What's going on? He asked, not understanding what the cause of the stalemate was. Their proximity is creating a bioenergy feedback loop, Albedo explained, trying to pull the arm away. Sparks of electricity emanated from both devices until a sphere of energy expanded from the center. Once the ball of energy dissipated into the environment, Bakugou looked back at the two Midoriyas that were fighting one another. When he laid eyes on them, he noticed something very different about them. The imposter, the one that was wearing Midoriya's hero costume, his colors had changed. He now had white hair and red eyes. His green costume had become red along with his watch. Well, now it's really easy to tell them apart, Bakugou commented as he watched them squirm. Meanwhile, on a planet far, far away, the First Thinker tinkered on one of his machines, working on his next big project. First Thinker, there is need for you, Agawan said, entering the chambers. What is it now? Azmuth asked. Every time he got to work, some emergency or other seemed to get in the way. There's an incredible amount of energy being released on Terra Prime, the Galvin said, handing the First Thinker his tablet. Let's see what's happening, Azmuth said, grabbing the tablet and observing the readings. He let out a deep sigh after seeing them, realizing precisely what was happening. What shall we do, Azmuth? The assistant asked worriedly. The readings were somewhat troubling. I'll take care of this, Azmuth said, grabbing his handheld teleporter, dematerializing from his lab. Back on Earth, after a lot of struggling, Albedo and Midoriya managed to separate themselves and their Omnitrixes. The three combatants got ready to continue fighting. Before another blow could be exchanged, a flash of light appeared on the ground in front of them. He's here, Albedo whispered, frightened at what was to come. Who is? Bakugou asked, not knowing who the heck he was talking about. Azmuth of the Galvin, the true genius behind the Omnitrix at your service, Azmuth answered the boy's question as he appeared. Azmuth, it's a pleasure to meet you, sir, Midoriya said, bowing to the creator of the device he wielded. So you're the boy who has been using my creation, Azmuth said, looking Midoriya over. I see you've made some modifications to my Omnitrix's design, but that does not excuse the way you've been using it. So many transformations in a localized area are bound to overload it. The energy output was so bad I can sense it galaxies away. I'm terribly sorry, I was just... Midoriya apologized while bowing. I understand the circumstances behind the situation, Azmuth explained. My former assistant went against my warnings and built an inferior copy of the device. Azmuth turned to Albedo and scolded him. I warned you there could only be one Omnitrix. You ignored me. I will not trust the universe's fate to a human teenager. There must surely be someone more worthy than he. Until that time, I will hold on to the device. If my Omnitrix cannot function, I will have his, Albedo shouted, pointing at Izuku. I told you the Omnitrix is beyond you. You could have doomed us all, Azmuth shouted. Wait, the universe was in danger? Midoriya asked, confused, while Bakugou looked at the conversation dumbfounded. First there was a fake Deku, and now one of his transformations just showed up. This was some convoluted BS. In a certain sense, yes. The Omnitrix must remain in safe hands, otherwise the results could bring catastrophe, Azmuth explained. Albedo has many motivations to take it, but the primary one is to restore his original form. I cannot stand this! These appendages are so sweaty and unarticulated. They are so hard to move. The blood flow to the brain seems to be rather slow, causing much dizziness. I feel as though I can't keep up with my own thoughts. Not to mention the sweating and many other aspects of this pubescent body, Albedo complained. Save it. Through your actions of rebellion, you have proven yourself unworthy of my trust and compassion. You've repeatedly gone against my advice and potentially endangered our futures, Azmuth scolded. He jumped onto Albedo's wrist and removed the Omnitrix's core, blocking him from ever transforming again. As punishment for your crimes, Albedo, you shall be imprisoned. Not just in a highly secure detention center, but in the body you have trapped yourself into. No, please, I'll do anything. Please return me to my original form, Albedo pleaded, falling to his knees. Azmuth, however, looked away, uninterested in his former assistant's words. You can't leave me like this, I beg you! I have, and I will, Azmuth said as the transporter started affecting Albedo, transporting him to a prison far, far away. Good riddance, Bahu commented, glad that the copy guy had finally disappeared. Once his former apprentice and assistant had been dealt with, Azmuth turned to Midoriya, extending his hand to him. Midoriya looked at him dumbfounded for a second, trying to figure out what the Galvan wanted. The Omnitrix, give it here, Azmuth said. Hesitant about it, Izuku complied, extending his arm towards Azmuth. Azmuth jumped onto it, pulled the core out and started fiddling with the device. These are some interesting customizations you have, he said as he pulled a couple of cables and inserted them elsewhere. There, that should do it. He reinserted the core and jumped back to the ground. Wait, you aren't taking it away? Midoriya asked. He genuinely thought that he was going to lose the Omnitrix. It seems safe in your hands, at least for the time being, Azmuth said as he stepped away. Of course, you still have a long way to go before reaching your true potential, but if I'm right, then I see many great things in your future. Midoriya could sense that he was about to leave, so he spoke up. Wait, I still have so many questions. It'll have to be some other time, Azmuth said. I currently have other matters to attend to. Just as he had suddenly appeared in front of them, Azmuth vanished, leaving no trace behind. What the hell was that, Deku? Bakugou shouted as soon as Azmuth left, demanding answers. What was that copy guy, and why is that weird watch of yours so special? It's a bit hard to explain, Kachan, Izuku said, scratching his back. Bakugou didn't seem to back down. He even seemed ready to fight Midoriya for the information. Izuku didn't have any more juice left in him. Not only was the Omnitrix out of power, but he had fought both the Yakuza and Albedo on the same day and was exhausted because of it. He ended up caving to the bully's demands, explaining everything. He started with the aliens, expanding to both the plumbers and the Omnitrix. At first, Bakugo thought Midoriya was pulling his leg with the whole aliens explanation, but as he went on, Bakugo found the details to be too elaborate and his tone of voice too sincere. Once the explanation ended, the conversation continued with both childhood friends expressing a multitude of emotions and ideas. Bakugo expressed his frustrations at what happened in the battle between All for One and All Might. Once the conversation seemed to have run its course, All Might arrived to scold the young boys. He was called over by some students who heard some noises coming from ground beta. Toroki and some others also expressed their concerns with him, as Midoriya and Bakugo were both acting rather strangely, so he went to check it out. With just a quick glance at the area, he could tell that there had been a battle. And since the two of them were the only ones there, the logical conclusion was that they fought each other. "What happened, you two?" All Might asked, curious at what would bring the two boys to blows. You see," Midoriya started, but he was quickly interrupted by Bakugo, who came up with a quick excuse. Bakugo knew that the truth was too complicated and would mean explaining too much, so he took the blame, saying that he forced Deku into a fight to vent his insecurities about what happened in Kamino. Aizawa arrived 2 hours later, along with Kirishima, Tsuyu, and Uraraka. The three students got settled in while Aizawa dealt with the situation between the two rivals. All Might explained what happened, letting Aizawa decide the punishment. In the end, Bakugo ended up with 7-day suspension, not counting his remedial classes outside of school, and Midoriya got 2 days of suspension. And that's the end of the video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit a like, subscribe, check my Discord link in the description below. And of course, leave a comment telling me your favorite ultimate from any of the shows, or an ultimate you would have liked to see. Personally, I think that the idea was underutilized in the show Ultimate Alien, and want to see what ideas you come up with. I also have to mention, very important, that this will be the last episode of Deku for a while, because of my whole rotation system. Next comes another series with 5 parts, then another, as it goes. I do want to say that Deku will return in a more unexpected fashion, so keep a lookout on the channel for that. All that said, I hope you enjoyed and want to see more because I am loving making this series, but I can't just focus on one. I'm a YouTube channel. If I focus on one, I may sink. Yes. All that said, again, I hope you absolutely enjoyed. I had a lot of fun making this up till now and want to keep making more. So, until next time, everyone, have an absolutely fantastic day. Bye!